Welcome everyone. Today we're going to look at restorative practices and the growing need for it in the learning environment. We'll also touch on the school to prison pipeline and ask the big question, are we flushing our children's futures down the drain, along with looking at the definition of restorative practices. So, as many of you may know, the government has a big push to reduce suspension and expulsion rates for targeted subgroups. Restorative practices has become an evolving approach throughout California, with the heart of it starting in Oakland. Restorative practices plays an important role committed to building community and restoring relationships, as it also aims to promote and strengthen school culture. One way to build classroom community is through the implementation of restorative practices. Although it does not lend itself as being the silver bullet, but if used often and with fidelity, it will help to foster a positive school culture through building trust, accountability, and respect. Moving on to the school to prison pipeline, you can see the statistics that are laid out here on the infographic. Some of the other images that are shown, you have an officer that is taking a student possibly off to juvenile hall. In the other image, you have an individual that is sitting in class and his reflection is that of being behind bars. Primarily students of color and other subgroups are suffering at high rates. Students suspended or expelled for a discretionary violation are nearly 3 times more likely to be in contact with the juvenile justice system the following year. What are we doing to keep kids in school? Are we coming up with alternative dispositions to keep our students out of the jail system? Another big question is, are we flushing students' futures down the drain? The impact of no tolerance has driven the statistics of students not finishing school through the roof. One strategy to curb these statistics are through the implementation of restorative practices. This is an inside-out approach that uses the classroom as the foundational level of its building blocks in building community. What is restorative practices, you may ask at this point? Well, the definition is to your left, and on the right in the infographic there are other examples that are known practices in use of restorative strategies. Some of them are to build healthy relationships, prevent harmful behavior, resolve conflict, discuss the needs of the school, and one that is not listed is that it can also be used for covering content in the classroom. For the most part, individuals feel that restorative practices are only used in regards to discipline, but it is also a great way to tie in content and also focus on prevention. Benjamin Franklin could not have said it better. In the video to follow, you will be able to observe the positive impact that restorative practices has in the learning environment by the use of restorative circles.
I like circles because you get to know a lot more about people, and I feel like you can be a lot more open and you'll learn better.
When we have circles, everybody gets to just let everything out that they're thinking and give an opinion, so they feel like they have a voice in our school.
I think that the kids appreciate the fact that everybody gets a chance to speak. They're being heard, and they know they're being heard, and they feel that they're being heard.
I feel like I've gotten to know my students better.
It's easier to know that person and become friends and be as open as possible, and you really just get to learn a lot about people.
Our class is a lot more tighter-knit community because of it. I've really gotten to know my kids and things that I never would have known about them before.
I think what has changed is the rapport that I've been able to develop with my students.
By other school, we don't really do circles, and people got bullied a lot because they had different interests and nobody got along real well. And other than this school, where it seems like a much happier place here.
I just think it helps make the environment of a school a little bit better.
As you can see, Restorative Practices supports our students' future. With proper training and implementation, we can head off into the right direction. Most students that are engaged in these practices are less likely to reoffend, and they're more likely to hold each other accountable. Educators, let's focus on education and not incarceration.